It can be anyone, at any time, anywhere.
If you're a victim of crime, if you're a witness of crime, we're here for you.
Did you know that the UK has one of Europe's highest rates of unsolved crime? An estimated 40% of reported crimes do not result in a conviction. Today we look at some of the UK's most shocking crime stories, stories that leave you speechless and question the very structure of our justice system. From brutal murders to daring robberies, these crimes have left an indelible mark on British history and continue to shape our understanding of criminal trends. By investigating these crimes, we hope to gain a deeper understanding of crime's complexity and the dark side of human nature. In a country known for its attitude and decency, it is often shocking to see how widespread and diverse crime is. From the infamous Jack the Ripper murders to more recent grooming gangs, crime has played a key role in shaping social perceptions and law enforcement. Examining these cases will show how they have influenced political change, public outrage, and our attitudes toward crime. Crime in the UK has a long and complex history, with some crimes sparking widespread outrage and others receiving little attention. But what drives people to commit such heinous acts? Is it poverty, greed, or something more sinister? In investigating these cases, we explore the social and historical context in which they took place and how they reflect the darker side of human nature. Crime has always been a pressing issue in the UK, with certain types of crime increasing or decreasing from year to year. In recent years, certain types of crime, such as knife crime and gang violence, have increased, while other types of crime, such as robbery, have decreased. But what is behind these trends? Is it a change in the police, a change in societal values, or something else? Today we look at some of Britain's most shocking crime stories, stories that will make you question everything you thought you knew about crime and justice. From the Moors murders to the London riots, these crimes have left an indelible mark on British history. So let's take a closer look at these crimes and see what we can learn from them. The first case we'll look at is the infamous Dennis Nilsen murders. Between 1978 and 1983, Nilsen murdered at least 12 young people, most of them homeless or vulnerable, and burned their bodies in his backyard. What drove Nilsen to commit these heinous crimes? And how did he manage to remain undetected for so long? Another case that shocked the nation was the murder of Sarah Payne. In 2000, the 8-year-old boy was kidnapped and murdered by Roy Whiting, a man with a history of sexual assault. The case sparked widespread outrage and calls for reform, especially regarding the issue of pedophilia. The Broadwater Farm riots of 1985 were a turning point in British history as tensions between the police and the local community reached a peak. The riots caused widespread destruction and the death of a police officer, raising important questions about police policing and community relations. The Soham murders, in which 2 schoolgirls were kidnapped and murdered by Ian Huntley, shocked the nation in 2002. The case raised important questions about police vetting processes and the safety of children. The London riots of 2011 were a turning point in British history as widespread rioting and looting occurred across the capital. But what drove these young people to commit such acts of violence and vandalism? The Rotherham child abuse scandal, in which hundreds of girls were sexually abused by a group of men, is a stain on the British justice system. How could such heinous crimes continue for so long, and what does it mean for our society? The 1993 murder of Stephen Lawrence was a racially motivated attack that shocked the nation and led to widespread calls for reform. The case raised important questions about racism within the police and institutional racism. The Shipman murders, in which Dr. Harold Shipman murdered at least 250 of his patients, is one of the most shocking crimes in British history. What drove Shipman to commit such a heinous crime, and how did he manage to evade detection for so long? The challenges faced by law enforcement in solving these crimes are numerous and varied. From dealing with complex forensic evidence to managing public expectations, the police have a tough job on their hands. But what can we learn from these cases about the importance of effective policing and community relations? One of the biggest challenges facing law enforcement is the issue of public trust. How can the police rebuild trust with communities who feel let down by the system? And what role can the public play in helping to solve these crimes? Another challenge is the issue of resources. With police budgets being constantly squeezed, how can they possibly keep up with the demands of modern policing? And what are the consequences of under-resourcing our police forces? The rise of social media has also changed the way we think about crime and justice. How can the police use social media to engage with the public and gather evidence, while also avoiding the pitfalls of trial by media? The resolutions to these cases have been varied and often controversial. From the convictions of those responsible to the changes in laws and policies that arose as a result, we'll examine the aftermath of these crimes and what we can learn from them. The conviction of Dennis Nilsen brought a sense of closure to the families of his victims, but it also raised important questions about the treatment of serial killers. Should they be locked away forever, or is rehabilitation possible? The Sarah Payne case led to widespread calls for reform, particularly around the issue of pedophilia. The resulting legislation, Sarah's Law, has had a lasting impact on the way we think about sex offenders. The Broadwater Farm riots led to an inquiry into policing and community relations, which has had a lasting impact on the way the police interact with local communities. The Soham murders led to changes in police vetting procedures and the way we think about child safety. The London riots led to a widespread review of policing and community relations and the role of social media in inciting violence. The Rotherham child abuse scandal led to widespread outrage and calls for reform, particularly around the issue of child protection. The Stephen Lawrence case led to widespread calls for reform, particularly around the issue of racism and institutional racism within the police force. The Shipman murders led to changes in the way doctors are regulated and monitored, and the way we think about patient safety. As we summarize the key points made throughout this video, it's clear that these crime stories have had a lasting impact on society and the justice system. From the importance of effective policing and community relations to the challenges faced by law enforcement, we've seen the complexities of crime up close. These crime stories are a sobering reminder of the darker aspects of human nature, but they're also a call to action. By examining these cases and learning from them, we can work towards creating a safer, more just society. If you want to learn more about these cases, we recommend checking out some of the excellent documentaries and books on the subject. And let us know in the comments what you think about these crimes and what we can do to prevent them in the future. Thanks for watching.